My name is Kerry-Ann James. I'm a TV and film actress, and I'm also a recent graduate from the MA program in the Cinema and Media Studies department at York. So my paper was called From Syncretism to Cinema, the Cultural and Spiritual Legacies in Black Contemporary Music Films, long title, but I was exploring the music videos, which I called music films, by neo soul and jazz artists like Kamasi Washington, Solange Knowles, the Uma Chroma Collective, and their respective directors like Cleo Joseph. Um, and Solange directed her own film, and Uma Chroma is a collective that Kamasi Washington is a part of as well. So I was looking at the way that their creative processes were also related to a spiritual process, like rituals. And I was kind of exploring how that related to the Black arts movements, but the margins of the Black art movement, because at that time, Black nationalism was on the rise because, Black artists wanted to make a Black American identity that was different than the dominant white like American identity. So abstract work wasn't really accepted. So someone like Alice Coltrane, who was working with like these spiritual like syncretism, which is just like a mixture of different beliefs and religious practices in one into her creative process. And also like Roy DeCarava, who was honored much later than in that moment, weren't like the icons of Black art movement, but these artists working today are heavily influenced by them. And when I was reading a lot of their like motivations for their work or inspirations, Alice Coltrane always came up, Roy DeCarava always came up, and these are all like Black icons that worked with jazz. And yeah, so that's what my research is about. And I was kind of just unearthing that and understanding how there's this whole other layer to the processes of these artists. Well, I loved music. I grew up in a very musical family. Like all my siblings, we had to play instruments. So I love music. I have a great appreciation for it. And I love fashion and film. And when I was an undergrad at U of T, like I loved cinema, but I loved music videos too. Like I was that child that loved watching like 1 and 6 in Park and stuff, and like I'm waiting for it and like MTV and Much Music. And when I was in a certain class, this professor, Lauren Kramer, who's part of the Liquid Blackness research group, she's a founder of it actually, which is based from the University of Georgia, I believe. Yeah, and they look at Black cinema, but that specific professor looked at hip hop music videos, like rap, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that this was something that was taken seriously in academia and that was worthy of like scholarly research. And I remember my first object that I brought in to analyze was a film by Cleo Joseph, but it was a fashion film for like the spring summer 2014 collection for Kenzo, and which is a high fashion brand. And he's a Black director, and it was so amazing, and it was short form. It kind of felt like a music video, and I just I felt deeply in love with that type of media and how much that actually matters to cinema and Black culture. So yeah, that's kind of why I chose the topic. It really mattered, and it didn't seem like a lot of people knew that that was something that was worthy of that. And the way it's moving in the contemporary art world right now is just so phenomenal that it needed to be spoken about. So that's why I chose it. It's definitely the visual analysis because I was really just watching the music videos over and over and over again. And I love all the artists. I love jazz. I love soul. So that was, and I went to the Schomburg Research Center for Black Culture in Harlem to look at Roy DeCarava's photos in the archives. And just looking at like doing the visual analysis, it was just insane because it, it's so it almost feels like a spiritual experience to look at these images and have such a visceral reaction to them. And there's so much beauty in them. And then the music videos themselves, like the music, like I always want to sing along with Alice Smith. Like if you ever hear her voice, it will move, it will chill your bones. So that was my favorite part. That was my favorite part for sure. And someone who grew up like I grew up in a Christian household. I was always reading the Bible, and every time you read it, like for example, like you get a new meaning to something, and I was like, it's not that the text has changed, but I have changed, and I felt it was like a similar experience with the visual analysis. So I'd watch it again. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually so complex visually and sonically. Like a new meaning came to it, but not because the music video changed or the photo changed, but because like I had new eyes to it, where I read something and I looked at it differently. And it just, yeah, it's visual analysis. Long way to say that. I feel like these works speak a lot for themselves in the way that these are music videos that are thought of as like these like lowbrow type of media, but all these artists, Solange, Alice Smith, and the Umakroma itself, and Cleo Joseph, these are people who are changing the way music videos are exhibited. Like they're at galleries, like Black Mary, which is the music video that Alice Coltrane, not Alice Coltrane, Alice Smith, that Khalil Joseph directed. It was commissioned by Tate Modern. Like the narrative of how Black music and Black spirituality is being seen is taking a whole new form. And I think just being able to be a part of the conversation about what is motivating them and what their processes are and how it actually relates to a long legacy really, I think, highlights the importance of cultural like preservation. and and I want the artists who potentially would read this to think deeply about their creative processes, to think about the different dimensions of what it means to be an artist, and also people who are consuming it to think deeply about the media that they're consuming too, and what it means to them, and to watch it over and over, to see the nuances and the intentionality that actually goes in it. I've been focusing on acting. I was filming a feature film last week, which was really fun. It was a Lifetime film, and I tend to do thrillers, so it has nothing to do with my research. But it was an all Black cast, which was amazing. It's my second time being a part of a cast that looks like that. So that was exciting. But I'm also recently have gotten the opportunity to actually get on sets with this creative production company that works on music videos and fashion films and things like that. So I'm gonna like start getting on the production side of things, because I also do want to make things and not just analyze them, even though that's great, but I love to make things. So getting on the production side of it, writing more films, and something that I'm hoping that I will get off the ground next year is definitely to have a podcast that expands on this research, because I know so many artists and filmmakers, but I want to focus on a Canadian context, and yeah, work on speaking to artists about their creative processes and what the other dimensions of their work look like that the dominant culture doesn't see.